Want a handmade wire bangle like this one in sterling silver or gold filled? Something like this would probably cost hundreds at retail, but today I'm going to show you how to make your own using a single piece of wire. Here's what you need to get started. We'll be using a few tools including a flat nose, a round nose, and a wire cutter. We also have a steel file to hide those nicks that might be there at the end. The flat nose will be used to grip and wrap the wire. Since we're working with heavy wire, it's best if you can get heavy-duty tools that have a good grip. The round nose will be for bending the small loop at the end into a nice shape. You also need a wire cutter that can handle thick gauges. Lastly, if you can get one, it's also really useful to have a nylon-coated plier so that you don't leave too many marks on the wire. Less marks on the wire means that you have less polishing to do at the end. The materials for this is as easy as it gets because we only have one to work with. A 12-gauge soft wire so that it's heavy but bendable and easy to work with. 14-gauge will work too. To get started, take a piece of wire that's about 6 inches longer than what you want the final length to be. If you're aiming for a 7.5-inch bracelet, it's best to take 13.5 inches so you have a bit of room for error. The first step is to take the wire and bend it like this, so you have a short end of around 3 inches long. Here's where the nylon tip plier comes in handy. Use your plier to squeeze the wire tightly together like this so the wires are running side by side. Now, slightly bend about 1/4 or 1/2 inch at the end up towards you. Now, go up 1 inch and bend it in the opposite direction. See? Now you have your hook made. Just going to show you from all sides. Now, take your plier and hold your hook by both wires right here with the good grip. Grab the short, loose end of the wire and coil it around the longer end like this. I'm using my hands, but you can use a plier to wrap the coil as well. Just make sure you have a solid grip because if your hand slips, you may end up punching yourself in the face by accident. I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that you should take about 6 extra inches at the beginning to be safe. If you're working straight from the spool like I am, you can make the hook first and then measure about 2 to 2.5 inches extra for the loop. This way there's less uncertainty as to how much you'll end up needing and you'll waste less wire. Again, we're making a 7.5-inch bracelet, so I'm going to take 10 inches just to be safe. Now we're going to make the loop using your round nose plier for this step. You can use the nylon-coated one to assist you in shaping the loop without leaving marks. Start by bending the loop one side back and then continue bending the loop into shape. You can adjust the loop when you're done to make it more round. Now for wire wrapping the end. We'll grab the loop with a strong grip, then coil the short end of the wire halfway around. Don't do a full wire wrap because we may need to make adjustments later. You can use your hands to help you get there, and then finish the wrap with your heavy-duty flat nose. This is why we chose the soft wire, because these thick edges can be tough to bend. We'll just check to make sure that we're okay with the length of the bracelet. At this point, we can still adjust the end, so before we do the wire wrapping, I'm going to shape the bracelet to make sure the loop works okay with the hook. I'm using a steel cylinder, but you can use a roll of tape or a soda can to help you get that round shape. Okay, and there we go. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time around. We can make adjustments later. So as you see, the hook doesn't quite fit right, so I'm going to adjust the loop to make it bigger. You can try by squeezing the loop so that it's longer and taking some of that extra wire that we have left to give it a little bit more length. Okay. Now it looks good. So now all that's left is to finish those wire wraps. It's already coiled halfway around, so the rest is easy. Just try to judge where the corner of the wrap is and cut the wire to fit there. A trick I use to cut exactly where I want it is just to cut halfway or even a quarter of the way. Don't cut it through, just leave a mark basically. Then grab after the mark and bend back and forth along the weak spot, and it's really precise. Use your flat nose to pinch it nice and close so that it tucks in perfectly. Just let the tools do the work. Okay, now we're almost there. Just repeat that step on the other side. Okay, so now we're just going to use the file to smooth out any blemishes or sharp parts and do your final adjustments to the shape. At this point, you can consider yourself done, but I'm going to show you a couple bonus steps. Now, soft wire is easy to bend and shape your bracelet, but the downside of it is that the bangle can bend easily on your wrist too. To make it harder afterwards, I'm going to heat up the metal with a butane torch and shock it with cold water. The butane torch is not strong enough to melt the wire, but it can cause the wire to become a bit rough if you leave it on one spot for a long time. Just keep in mind that you can't use this method with plated wire because the color will change. It should be fine for gold filled, but be especially careful not to leave it on one spot for that long. Just go back and forth lightly so the metal heats up. Now grab it with the tweezers and put it under running water for about 20 to 30 seconds to be safe, because you can't tell how hot it is just by looking. Now, the shape is the same, but it's much harder than before, so it won't lose its shape so easily. Okay, so now we got that done, but I have another bonus step for you. You can keep your bangle in its original color, but if you're using silver, you can also oxidize it. Use an oxidizing solution like silver black and dip it in like this, and get the solution on all parts of the metal. You should be doing this in a well-ventilated environment with safety goggles, gloves, and tweezers. This solution is very acidic, poisonous, and corrosive, so whatever you do, just be careful. Rinse well in water, and now we're really finished. You can use these techniques exactly as I demonstrated, or modify it for your own designs. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and remember, practice makes perfect.